Live from WRAL News headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Taking a look at where Hurricane Milton is, it is pulling away from Florida. Still as a hurricane, still some rain and wind on the East Coast. I'll show you what's happened across the state.
And here is a live look on the east coast of Florida, New Smyrna Beach right now, as there are more reports of people killed in the storm from Milton coming in.
And Milton is moving out of Florida this morning, and North Carolina is working to repair Helene damage to major roads here. What the state DOT is doing to speed up that process to get I-40 back up and running. It feels sort of surreal. We've been talking about Helene, obviously, as it affects us, but now we have another hurricane to talk about, Milton. We're doing that this morning here on WRAL News and Fox 50. Good morning. I'm Chris Lovingood.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Let's get right over to meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner. That storm moving right off the East Coast now, leaving behind a lot of damage.
It really is. You know, 3 different types of damage, which we'll talk about in a second. But let's take a look here. Center of circulation is now offshore. That means that the heaviest rain and the strongest winds have moved out, but there is still rain falling. And of course, Jeff has a picture of what's happening there at New Smyrna Beach on the East Coast that he's going to show us coming up in just a few minutes. Let's talk about what the impacts have been. First of all, hurricane force winds. It's been a hurricane as it's crossed Florida. So some gusts up to 102 miles per hour near landfall last night, which is it was at 8:30 just south of Tampa. Heavy rain in some places, totals 12 to 17 inches, and storm surge could have been up to 10 feet. But that's not something that we'll know until it's safe for people to get out and see how high the water actually came. Here's a look at the 8 o'clock advisory. It's 75 miles northeast of Cape Canaveral. The center of circulation is still moving northeast at 18, still has winds at 85 miles per hour. It will continue to travel offshore and should not affect land. It looks like it'll go south of Bermuda. Let's talk about some of the rainfall. And you can see here the brown shaded areas. That's where we had as much as 10 to 12 inches, maybe some pockets of even higher rainfall totals. And then the orange is going to be around 8 to 10 inches. And you can see that swath just right through the center of Florida, Tampa to Orlando, out toward Daytona Beach. The rainfall wasn't as heavy down south, but the storm surge was. It's a completely different thing. Also the winds, Sarasota near landfall, winds at 102. Those were the gusts, the peak gusts there. St. Pete, of course, up closer to Tampa, 90 mile per hour gusts. Venice and Punta Gorda, 107 and 79. And of course, Tampa Bay up there in the 90s as well. Here we're dealing with just some cloud cover and breezy conditions today. You can see some clear sky off in the distance from North Hills. 57 is our temperature. Our dew point's 41, so it's very dry air mass. We're going to see winds coming out of the north, gusting 15 to 20 today. And those gusts will help to push some cool air in. We'll see increasing sunshine this afternoon, but our high only in the upper 60s. And our temperatures tonight will be the coldest this season. I'll show you that coming up. Anthony?
Elizabeth, we get a check on the roads this morning. Definitely some issues to tell you about here as far as our delay map across the city of Raleigh is concerned. One bit of good news, though, I will tell you here, I-87 southbound from Knightdale, that delay was at about 22 minutes. That newest update has brought it down to about a minute. So it looks like, oh, well, there we go, back up to 17. So just plan on about 15 to 20 minutes or so on that one. I was hopeful they were making some progress, but it looks like it's still going to be a bit of a backup. US 1 south from Wake Forest, about 12 minutes, also looking pretty good there across the southern parts of the city of Raleigh. And there's that live look for you, I-440 at Ridge Road. Some normal morning congestion, but otherwise looking pretty good on that camera.
All right, thanks, Anthony. This morning, Hurricane Milton is making its way across Florida and leaving destruction in its path. Look here, this is New Smyrna Beach. This is a live look there. You can see the ocean and all the waves there. And here's what we know so far. More than 3 million homes are without power across Florida. That's according to the utility tracker poweroutage.us. 4 people are confirmed dead after the storm spawned more than 24 tornadoes. And parts of downtown Tampa and St. Petersburg are flooded after the area was hit by up to 17 inches of rain.
And Jeff Hogan of the WRAL Live Center. I want to give you a sense of what first responders are up against right now, daylight, so they can get out and start to assess what some of the damage is. And early reports coming in, Reuters reporting here right now that while Milton brought a lot of damage, it did not cause catastrophic flooding, but emergency response calls that came in before daylight and before they could get out when it was safe, they had to put them on hold until it became safe. Power lines were down. There were structure fires reported. There have been rescues happening, both water rescues and land rescues going on. Naples reported a 6-foot surge. They were expecting more than that, so they were happy that it was only, and you say only, but only 6 feet, didn't cause that catastrophic flooding. I want to give a quick look. Some of our local affiliates are in continuous coverage right now. So I'm just going to show you what we have here on this tornado that hit Palm Beach area, North Palm Beach area there. And over on the other side of the state, St. Lucie County, there was a mobile home there, and now 4 deaths are being reported out of that mobile home community.
And Jeff, to help illustrate the power of Milton, the baseball stadium being used as a temporary shelter in St. Petersburg, Florida, it was seriously damaged during Milton. The storm's high winds tore fabric from the roof at Tropicana Field. That's the home of the Tampa Bay Rays. The stadium was set up as a shelter for as many as 10,000 people. At last check, no reports of injuries there.
And that's some good news. But Milton brought death and damage even before making landfall. As you heard Jeff just mention, it spun up tornadoes as it moved close to Florida. First responders say they are in rescue mode this morning in St. Lucie County. At least 4 people, again, have died after tornadoes touched down there. Area responders are focusing on the retirement community. The St. Lucie County Sheriff estimates around 100 homes were destroyed.
Goodness, just so devastating for those people. If you look at this video here, traffic camera video shows the widespread power outages in the Tampa area. You see the moment lightning knocked out the electricity over I-275. Now, the lights did come back on pretty quickly, but millions of homes across the state are still experiencing those outages. Now look at this video. This is video of flooding in Punta Gorda. Notice the water already close to the tops of the tires of the vehicles there, Michelle.
Just wild to see. And today, many people who escaped Florida ahead of Milton are driving to North Carolina. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us live from I-95. Kelsey, people are staying at hotels here or even sleeping in their cars at rest stops, anything to get out of Florida.
Yes, Michelle, if people were leaving Florida at the last minute yesterday, they could be driving through North Carolina right now. We've even seen a few cars here with Florida tags that were parked in this parking lot. This is a rest stop on I-95 in Johnston County. We did speak with some people who were here yesterday, and they say they had to drive hundreds of miles out of state in order to find safety. A hotel manager along I-95 says a lot of people from Florida are booking rooms, and our crews even saw some folks sleeping in their cars at rest stops. We spoke with a man who works at a rest stop in Johnston County. He says people who were driving in from Florida are taking the evacuation orders seriously.
When they say run, they running. I think that's a good thing that they're listening, because you can never determine what the storm is going to do. There's been a lot of traffic. When I come in the morning, they be lined up everywhere.
So many folks that we spoke with yesterday say they were only able to pack their valuables, and they're just hoping that things will be fine back home whenever they're able to return. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Johnston County.
And the Enfield Police Department says a student was attacked by people in ski masks on the bus ride home from school. This happened just before 4 p.m. yesterday on South McDaniel Street. The alleged attackers in hoods and ski masks boarded a school bus, and investigators say they assaulted at least 1 student. The masked suspects were gone before police arrived, but investigators say they expect to charge 3 juvenile suspects for this attack. And WRAL is still working to learn where the bus driver was at the time, among many other questions, including how old the students were. In the last hour, new help was sent to Western North Carolina. This is assistance to repair major highways closed because of Helene. Let's bring in WRAL's Nick Perlin. He's on I-40 this morning. Nick, those DOT teams, they're trying to reopen those roads ASAP.
Hey, Chris, it's obviously so important that they do that, even though there is a long road ahead because of all the damage that was left behind due to Helene. Now, like you said, about an hour ago at around 7, crews with the NCDOT 2nd Division headed west with the goal of fixing major roads that are still covered with debris and in some cases completely washed away. This does include parts of I-40 that were badly damaged. They will be heading to Henderson and Haywood County specifically, where maintenance crews have been busy cleaning up since the storm passed. They want to give some relief to those crews that have been working and also help those who are dealing with the damage.
To see houses and facilities and infrastructure like power lines, water lines just washed away. And you know, we may have part of a road washed out down here, but they have miles of roadway washed away.
And because of that, NCDOT says they expect this to be a very lengthy recovery process for Western North Carolina. That's why they're heading out right now to get ahead and start helping those people who desperately need it. Live in Raleigh, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
Tornadoes broke out on the east coast of Florida as the first bands of Milton came through. We'll show you a look at the damage from the deadly tornadoes in Palm Beach County coming up.
And a rare Monet painting was reunited with its owner's family 80 years after it disappeared. Just ahead, the journey this piece of artwork went through, spanning decades and several countries.
And our skies are cloudy because of Milton right now. We'll also see some gusty winds, 15 to 20 miles per hour. I'll show you when all of that moves out, and we're in for some chilly temperatures.
Welcome back on your Thursday morning as we take a live look at Fort Myers, Florida. This is on the west coast of Florida. They zoom out there. You can see the waves. You can see it is a gray and still very windy there. A lot of that rain is moving out of the west coast of Florida, and it's really on the east coast now. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner shows us where the remainder of Milton is right now.
Yeah, well, check this out. This is satellite and radar, so this is a live view. We still have some rain just east of Orlando and kind of hugging the east coast here. The center of circulation is offshore, and it's moving fast, around 18 miles per hour. So we've seen the end of the rain for the west coast of Florida, but of course we still have a broad circulation here, so that is kicking up the waves down there in Fort Myers that we just saw on that video. The center circulation is now 75 miles northeast of Cape Canaveral, again moving northeast at 18, still has winds at 85 miles per hour, but the storm is definitely moving away offshore, and it is no longer likely to affect land. It looks like it's going to pass south of Bermuda. So we had several things, of course, that caused damage across Florida in the last 24 hours. One of those was strong winds in Sarasota, which is very close to where the storm made landfall around 8:30 last night. Winds gusted up to 102 miles per hour. St. Pete, which is close to Tampa, 90-mile-an-hour winds just south of that. Venice at 107. Punta Gorda, south of Tampa, at 79. Tampa Bay, right there, 98-mile-per-hour winds. So wind damage we saw. Of course, we saw before the storm even came close to making landfall, tons and tons of tornadoes, lots of tornado damage. There were some deaths from tornadoes, 130 tornado warnings. These are a look at the damage reports, and there were 43 damage reports. In some cases, the way the Storm Prediction Center reports these, it may be one tornado that does damage in 3 different places. So it wasn't 43 tornadoes, but it could be as many as 30 tornadoes that touched down and did some damage. Milton, the futurecast, you can watch the storm as it's moving offshore. It will continue to take the rain along with it. We're seeing some cloud cover this morning. As the storm moves offshore, it's going to take the cloud cover away and just gradually continues to bring improving conditions there along the coast of Florida. Futurecast for us, so showing some clearing. We'll continue to see clearing skies as we get through the afternoon. We will see, of course, our eastern counties clearing last as Milton moves away and takes along that cloud cover with it. We check out what's happening out there. Look at that. We're clear in Chapel Hill, courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant, but it's still cloudy in Fayetteville. Fayetteville's going to be one of the last places to clear, maybe around early to mid-afternoon. Our temperatures are in the 50s as you're stepping out the door. It'll be breezy, a north wind today gusting 15 to 20 miles per hour. Not enough to do any damage, but definitely enough to be noticeable or uncomfortable. Overnight tonight, we dropped down to 45, the coldest we've been since last April. We'll take a closer look at the stats with that. And of course, another big cool down comes next week, Anthony.
Elizabeth, as we head out to the roads this morning, one crash here to tell you about that has been causing some big issues, unfortunately. I-87 westbound at Smithfield Road, you can see all of those sensors are in the red as you get even up toward Knightdale Boulevard. That's where it starts to get a little bit better. So that's something we'll continue to keep a close eye on for you this morning. That's one crash that we've seen, also several across the area. I-87 southbound, rather, there from Knightdale. A 14-minute delay, 9 minutes, US 1 south from Wake Forest. All those other major approaches are looking pretty good. You can see only about 2 to 3 minutes there for the majority of the other ones, but something to keep an eye on here for that Knightdale crash that we will watch closely for you this morning.
Thanks, Anthony. Hurricane Milton made landfall last night, leaving millions in the dark and a wide swath of destruction. Milton spawned tornadoes across the state, tornadoes that turned deadly. Alice Barr is in Washington with the federal response to the devastation.
Hurricane Milton churning across Florida after coming ashore last night as a Category 3 storm near Siesta Key off Sarasota. Milton's power unleashing dangerous storm surge and flash flooding and spawning a deadly tornado outbreak.
This is a devastating tornado. It took out that 10,000 square foot red iron building.
Ahead of landfall, FEMA put 1,200 search and rescue workers in place to respond.
This also includes 30 high water vehicles, helicopters, as well as boats to be able to go in and support the counties and the states as needed.
Also on the ground, crews ready to restore power and distribute millions of meals and liters of water as federal responders braced for a potentially once-in-a-century storm.
To the people of Florida and all the impacted states, we've got your back.
President Biden urging storm victims to avoid swirling misinformation and seek the help they need. Members of Miami Fire Rescue's Florida Task Force 2 among the crews looking for survivors.
The first couple of days is full blitz for all the task forces. It's 24 hours of operation, trying to find those that are left behind, trying to find those that are stuck.
Many who fled the path of destruction already dealing with damage from Hurricane Helene.
I think it's just cumulative, it's just you start to fall out and you get pretty overwhelmed.
Now they wait to see what's left.
They saw a lot of damage. That was Alice Barr reporting. Federal agencies are warning about the risk of fraud and the price gouging in the wake of the storm for essentials like food and gas.
We have another look at the force of Milton this morning. The Bradenton Police Department shared this video. Look at those palm trees. See how the strong winds are blowing the fronds about? You can see the rain is coming down sideways at one point in this video. Meanwhile, in St. Lucie, vehicles from the local sheriff's office were pinned beneath a collapsed building. In nearby Vero Beach, traffic lights were left dangling and railroad crossings were ripped from the ground. That is how strong Milton's winds were. And we have a look at this here in Tampa. You can see sparks flying right there as a transformer exploded. That led to power being knocked out to parts of the building behind that.
And Chris, it's not only people being rescued from the hurricanes, many pets have been saved as well. Cats and dogs have been recovered from dangerous spots across the southeast. Florida troopers saved a dog that was tied to a fence along I-75 as Milton approached. And the assistance goes the other way as well. Dogs have been assisting in the search and rescue efforts following Helene. And at the emergency center in Tampa, a cute pup has been brought in to boost morale.
Today, we are going to get an update on the effort to restore drinking water to people in western North Carolina. Governor Roy Cooper and the EPA administrator will discuss this situation this afternoon in Asheville. They'll address federal support to the area that's getting to test drinking water sources and repair damaged infrastructure. We're expecting to hear from them at around 3:45 p.m. But before that, Cooper will be in Marshall Township in Madison County. He'll get a look at the recovery effort unfolding there. In Orange County, the Hillsborough Police Department is looking for supplies to assist senior living facilities in western North Carolina. Specifically, they are asking for donations of senior protein shakes, adult diapers, bed pads, twin XL sheets and comforters, and new pajamas. You can take donations to the main police office on North Churton Street. That's until 5 p.m.
The deadline to vote in next month's general election is almost here. Your last chance to get registered is now through tomorrow at 5 p.m. You can register to vote on the state DMV website, or you can submit a form in person at your county board of elections. If you aren't sure whether you are registered, you can go to the State Board of Elections website and use the voter search tool. Election day is November 5th.
Just a heads up, today Wake Forest is hosting a launch event for Go Wake Forest. It's a ride-sharing transit service that operates kind of like Uber or Lyft. It'll replace the Wake Forest Loop bus service in the town. The event will happen in Centennial Plaza at the Wake Forest Town Hall at 10 a.m.
We'll take a look at this beautiful, rare pastel painting by Claude Monet. It's had an incredible journey to be returned to its owner's family. A couple in Austria bought the piece titled Bord de Mer in 1936, and they stored it in a shipping warehouse to send to themselves when they fled the Nazi regime. U.S. officials say Hitler's secret police seized it and it vanished. The painting resurfaced in 2016 at an exhibit in France, and an antique dealer sold it to a couple in Washington state. They listed it for sale but surrendered it to the FBI after learning that it had been stolen. Yesterday, the painting was finally handed over to the Austrian couple's granddaughters.
What a journey it's been on. This video right here, it shows a construction crane that fell into a building in Florida. It just illustrates the power Milton brought to St. Petersburg, Florida. WRAL has that video and more that we are showing you all morning long.
And we want to take you live out to the Tampa area. Look at all the flooding there. New video and live images pouring into the newsroom as we get our first daylight look at the damage that Milton left behind.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM. In Durham, 96.5 FM. And everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
Good morning. Happy Thursday. Time now is 8:26. I'm Michelle McConaughey. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner tracking what's left of Hurricane Milton.
Of course, the storm is moving out into the Atlantic now. Still a hurricane with 85-mile-per-hour winds. Still some rain and some strong winds along the east coast of Florida, but the rain is over on the west coast. And of course, at this point, as things start to settle down and we get into the day, people will be able to head out and sort of see what damage has happened. Here, we're just looking at some cloud cover. We're starting to see some sunshine peeking through in our western counties. We'll see increasing sun as we get through the day. Temperatures are in the 50s as you're heading out, and it will be breezy. We'll see gusts at around 15 to 20 during the day today. Pleasant for exercise. It'll be cool this afternoon, upper 60s and mostly sunny. Anthony?
Elizabeth, as we head out to the roads and get a check here of what we're seeing out there this morning, this is a crash showing up there, Knightdale Boulevard westbound at Old Knight Road. But some good news with that one is the sensors were in the red. They are no longer in the red. So it's likely clearing up here pretty shortly. I-87 westbound at Smithfield Road, though, this is something we'll continue to watch through the morning. That is certainly causing some big issues. Plan on about a 15 to 20 minute delay if you're headed in that direction.
Thanks, Anthony. Many people who evacuated Florida ahead of Milton made their way to North Carolina. A hotel manager on I-95 tells us she's seen many people from Florida renting rooms in recent days. And our crew saw people from Florida sleeping in their cars at rest stops. And utility crews from Rocky Mount are making their way to Florida this morning. They'll work to restore power to the millions without it right now. Some of the same workers just returned from Western North Carolina, where they were doing similar work. Next on Fox 50, state DOT crews head to Western North Carolina to help repair damaged parts of I-40 from Helene. And next on Today, catching up with Lori Hernandez for Trick or Treat for UNICEF.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Taking a look at satellite and radar, we are watching Milton moving out into the Atlantic. Still some rain and wind on the east coast of Florida. I'll show you what happened overnight.
And the damage from Milton is extensive, from the Gulf Coast of Florida all the way to the East Coast, and including parts right here, as you see, through the central part. This is a live look in Orlando right now.
And more images like this are making their way into the newsroom. The damage this devastating storm is bringing to the Sunshine State, including a crane that fell 46 stories. Wow. I mean, we knew there was going to be damage, and now we are seeing it. Daylight is obviously here. So, I mean, we are just talking about the extensive damage Florida has seen so far. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle McConaughey.
And I'm Chris Levingood. Let's get over to meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner, because people want to know where Milton is now, moving off the coast.
Yeah, the worst is over for sure. The center of circulation has moved off the coast. There is still some rain here on the east coast of Florida and still some gusty winds, but the storm is moving at about 17, 18 miles per hour. So it continues to move out into the Atlantic. And of course, we had three different kinds of damage. We had wind damage above, hurricane force up to 100 plus miles per hour as a category 3 as it made landfall. We had storm surge damage from south of Tampa down toward Fort Myers. And then, of course, we had rainfall that caused flooding. We also had tornado damage as well. So hurricane force winds, gusts up to 102. The storm made landfall at 8:30 last night near Sarasota, Florida. You can see right there. We had some wind gusting up to 102 there. Heavy rain, totals in some places 12 to 17 inches. A lot of that was, say, from Tampa over toward Orlando. And then the storm surge, as much as 10 feet were possible. However, we won't really know about the storm surge until people have a chance to get out and see how high that water came up on and into buildings. Right now, the center is 75 miles northeast of Cape Canaveral, still a category 1 storm at 85 miles per hour. But as it moves eastward, it will dissipate and stay away from land. So we will not have to worry too much about it anymore. The brown shaded areas from Tampa toward Orlando is where we had the heaviest rainfall, 10 to 12 plus inches. And then the orange shaded area, about 8 to 10 inches. And you can see this is where we had the the rainfall flooding issues, but the storm surge was going to be Tampa down to the south. And of course, the wind damage sort of followed the rain, which of course was right along the path of the center of the storm. Sarasota near landfall, winds gusting to 102. St. Pete, of course, up near Tampa, 90 miles per hour. Venice at 107. Punta Gorda, 79. Tampa Bay, 98. So a lot of really damaging wind there. We're starting to see some blue sky breaking out over North Hills. Slowly, we're going to see skies clearing today. 57 is our temperature. Those clouds that you see out there are related to Milton, and so they'll continue to move off from the northwest to southeast. A little breezy, gusts up to 20 miles per hour this afternoon. And with a northerly wind, we'll see a cool day today with highs in the upper 60s. Tonight is likely to be the coolest night that we've seen in months. I'll show you that coming up, Anthony.
And we get a check on the roads this morning, Elizabeth. Here's a look at the current I-40 delays. Overall looking pretty good. No major backup showing up with that map, but certainly there's been a couple crashes here. One that I'm going to tell you about as far as this one is concerned that's been causing some major issues out there. I-87 westbound at Smithfield Road, that's where the crash is at, but you can see all of that red stretching all the way up there even toward Knightdale Boulevard. That's where it starts to get a little bit better, but just plan on, I would say, about 15 to 20 minutes as far as a delay is concerned in that direction. Also, US 1 south from Wake Forest, about an 8-minute backup out there this morning.
Thank you, Anthony. Folks, I want to point your attention to this screen right here. This is New Smyrna Beach in Florida right here. Look at this. You can see it's quiet for the most part, but those waves, I mean, just violently ripping against the coast there. Just shows you the scope and the damage of Milton becoming clear this morning. Many communities in Florida were hit with more than a foot of rain. And right here, this is a live look in Bradenton, Florida. See that tree right there? Uprooted. See the water there and the trash bin that it's being covered in water? That is what we saw from Milton. Let's talk about more. We're talking more than 3 million homes in Florida are without power right now, and at least 4 people died because a tornado ripped through St. Lucie County. President Joe Biden said he pre-deployed thousands of federal workers to areas the storm affected, and that includes more than 1,000 Coast Guard members.
And Jeff Hogan in the WRAL Live Center once again, getting an update from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He is holding a news conference right now, but he released this message just a little bit earlier here, about 25 minutes ago, saying we'll get through this. We'll survey the damage and get people on their feet. He also said workers had been trying to clear the debris overnight, but it's tough to tell which debris that was, if it was from Helene or if it was from Milton. Experts calling it a 1,000-year flood, dropping about 16 inches of rain on St. Petersburg. And I want to give you a look right now in Wellington, Florida, because this damage is just extensive. What happened here, the sheriff in this area is saying that there were 6 to 12 tornadoes that hit this area and touched down in a short period of time, strong enough to flip over cars and take trailers right off their foundation. You're about to see a video of one vehicle badly damaged there, but the homes also suffering severe damage there, and not just broken windows or missing a couple of shingles off the roof. These houses are at least 100 of them are called total losses.
That's just devastating. And the baseball stadium, also being used as a temporary shelter in St. Petersburg, suffered damage to its roof during Milton. The storm's high winds tore fabric from the roof at Tropicana Field. That's home of the Tampa Bay Rays. The stadium was set up as a shelter for as many as 10,000 people. There are no reports of any injuries, luckily.
And Michelle, an office building in St. Petersburg, it's damaged because a construction crane, look at that, it fell against the building during Milton. Video shows the crane crashed through the side of a building, and this is the same one that houses the region's newspaper, the Tampa Bay Times. The crane fell from a 46-story skyscraper being built across the street, but no reports of any injuries in that crash. Meanwhile, streets in Tampa are filled with debris from Milton. This is video from Bayshore Boulevard. It's essentially a major road along the waterfront there. You can see concrete and bricks from the damaged buildings covering the side of the road.
And when you hear us talk about storm surge, this is what we are referencing. New video from Fort Myers shows roads have completely disappeared underneath the water. Water from the Caloosahatchee River has pushed inland, causing this intense flooding.
Milton led to 4 deaths and caused damage even before making landfall. It spun up tornadoes as it moved closer to Florida. First responders say they are in rescue mode this morning in St. Lucie County. Again, at least 4 people died because of tornadoes there. EMS teams are now focusing on a retirement community. The St. Lucie County Sheriff estimates around 100 homes, Michelle, were destroyed.
And this morning, people who left their Florida homes ahead of Milton are arriving here in North Carolina. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey is on I-95 in Johnston County. Kelsey, people are staying at hotels in the area, some even sleeping in their cars.
Michelle, they are, and if some people left the Tampa area at the last minute yesterday, they could be arriving in North Carolina at some point this morning. We've even seen a few cars here with Florida tags at this rest stop on I-95 in Johnston County. Our crew spoke with people who were here yesterday, and they say that they've traveled hundreds of miles to find safety. A hotel manager along I-95 says a lot of people from Florida are booking rooms. Our crews even saw some folks sleeping in their cars at rest stops. We spoke with one man whose car was packed with supplies.
The gas stations were packed with people that were leaving. Walmart's was cleared out. And I said, if they're clearing out, then I'm leaving to go up to New Jersey to my sister's house.
We also spoke with someone who works here at this rest stop, and he says that traffic has been backed up here since Monday. And all of the people that we've talked to who are staying here from Florida say that they were really only able to pack their valuables. So they're just hoping that they can find things back home as they left them. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Johnston County.
Additional help is headed to the North Carolina mountains. Teams have a very important mission: repair major highways damaged during Helene. WRAL's Nick Perlin reports from I-40 that DOT teams have orders to get those roads open as soon as possible.
The effects of Hurricane Helene are still being felt right now in western North Carolina. That's why crews with NCDOT are headed out west to help those who are still suffering from the damage left behind. At 7 this morning, crews with the NCDOT 2nd Division headed west with the goal of fixing roads that are still covered with debris and in some cases completely washed away. This includes some portions of I-40. Now, they will be heading specifically to Henderson and Haywood counties, where maintenance crews have been busy cleaning up since the storm hit. They want to give some of those crews relief to those who've been working since Helene hit western North Carolina. They also want to help those who are still dealing with the damage left behind.
To see houses and facilities and infrastructure like power lines, water lines just washed away. And you know, we may have part of a road washed out down here, but they have miles of roadway washed away.
Now, crews with NCDOT say the recovery process in western North Carolina is going to take a while. That's why they think it's so important to get out there and help those people who are still being affected. In Raleigh, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
Your time is 8:40 this morning. Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance will host a town hall event in Greensboro tonight. Vance will speak with voters at the Corey Convention Center at 6 p.m. Doors open at 4. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate Tim Walz will be in Arizona. That's where he is expected to hold a rally tonight.
And Vice President Kamala Harris is coming back to North Carolina this weekend. She's holding a campaign rally in Greenville on Sunday from noon to 4. The location has not been announced yet.
Tonight, only on WRAL at 6, a Wake County mother's fight to get her son with special needs a permanent teacher and why the problem is much bigger than just one family.
And they said that they couldn't change his class because what would they do? Change all the students that don't have a teacher?
Jennifer Tonello called Keeley after she says she was never informed that her son's previous teacher had left. She says her non-speaking son, who made great strides with his speech tablet, is regressing. At 6 o'clock, 5 on your side and WRAL's Education Insider teamed up to investigate the teacher shortage plaguing local districts and the potential reason behind this. This morning, we are getting our new looks at the power coming from Hurricane Milton and its effects across Florida. Ahead, we are going to look over this video and show the strength of the storm on its path of destruction across the state.
And a star-studded lineup is coming to Charlotte, all to benefit the people of western North Carolina. Coming up, more on the artists taking the stage and when tickets will go on sale.
Plus, we want to give you a live look at Fayetteville this morning. A little gray across the skies there. Feels like a fall day. That's because it's going to be a cool fall day across the viewing area. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner has a look at the forecasts in just a bit. Goodness gracious, even compelling when you look at it during the daylight. This is Tampa Bay, Florida right now. That is the Tropicana field where the Tampa Bay Rays play. That's how strong the winds were from Hurricane Milton. Now, the worst of it is over, Elizabeth, but goodness gracious, the damage there.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty incredible to see, certainly. We're going to go over what we saw overnight last night in Florida. But let's first start with what's happening right now. The center of circulation has moved offshore. There is still some rain that's falling that is closer to the East Coast right now, and it is still windy right there. We've seen some pictures, especially right not too far from Daytona Beach, where there's still looks like there's some storm surge happening there. Of course, the heaviest storm surge was down here south of Tampa, between just south of Tampa all the way down toward Fort Myers, Florida. But again, let's talk about what the things were that we saw. First of all, hurricane force winds. We just saw that video of the Tampa Bay Rays Stadium. There were gusts up to 102 miles per hour as it made landfall just south of Tampa. But we had some reports of some gusts in Tampa at 98 to 97 miles per hour. So definitely some wind damage. Also, heavy rain around the Tampa area up toward Orlando, as much as 12 to 17 inches. So that's going to be flooding from rainfall. And then flooding from storm surge is completely different. And that really happened from, again, south of Tampa down toward Fort Myers there on the West Coast. And that's something that is really hard to measure until it's safe enough for people to go out and examine the buildings to see how high that water actually came. The storm right now is, at least at the 8 o'clock advisory, 75 miles northeast of Cape Canaveral. It's probably more like 80 miles, 85 miles at this point, moving off the coast, moving northeast at 18 miles per hour, winds at 85. This storm is not going to cause problems for anyone else. It will head south of Bermuda just as a weak tropical storm. So the worst of the storm is definitely over. The brown shaded area is where we saw some of that heavier rainfall, 12 inches to maybe as much as 17 inches. That would be just a few isolated spots. But Tampa to Orlando is where we had the heaviest rainfall. And then the orange shaded area, again, sort of along the path of the storm, as much as 8 to 10 inches. And then from there, it was a little lighter. So down here, say closer to Fort Myers, it was more like 3 or 4 inches. But of course, they had feet of storm surge that caused issues down there. So the storm is moving offshore. As we look up the coast, we're still seeing winds anywhere from 30 to almost 50 miles per hour gusting up the coast. We had peak winds at St. Pete there near Tampa at 101 at Tampa International Airport, 83 miles per hour, Palm Harbor 87, Winter Haven 79 miles per hour. So definitely wind that did damage. Here, it's going to be breezy today. Our wind is out of the north, 5 to 15 miles per hour. We're going to see some gusts, 15 to 20 today. We take a look at RDU, starting to see a big patch of blue sky breaking out. 57 is our temperature, a very low dew point at 41. This is a look at the visible satellite image, and this is cloud cover from Milton, and it will move off to the southeast as that storm moves away. And you can see that there on Futurecast. As we get through the morning hours, we see that cloud cover moving on out and off of our coast. It will be breezy and cool today, 69 in Raleigh and Durham, 72 in Fayetteville. And of course, the winds will be blustery this afternoon. A cold night tonight. Temperatures drop down into the mid 40s, about 10 degrees cooler than what we saw this morning. That will end up being the coldest that we've seen since April. We're looking at a milder weekend.
Elizabeth, thank you. I want to point your attention to this, folks. This video of floodwaters and flying debris in Sarasota, Florida. That's as Milton made landfall. You can see just how fast winds blew palm fronds from the tops of these trees. Floodwaters accumulated and pooled in the streets, and WRAL is monitoring the conditions in Florida as we wake up this morning, seeing the scope of this damage.
And in downtown St. Petersburg, look at this. You can really see the strength of the storm, where sheets of rain were blown completely sideways. The traffic poles bouncing pretty dramatically, tree limbs just being carried down the street with ease. The winds were recorded at over 75 miles per hour.
A tornado that arrived ahead of Milton's landfall badly damaged a mobile home park in Florida. These are images from Lake Placid, just northwest of Fort Myers. The local sheriff's office says one person was injured during that.
And tonight, candidates for Raleigh City Council and Wake County Board of Commissioners will meet to talk about housing. All but one of the candidates for Raleigh City Council and half of the candidates for Wake County Board of Commissioners have agreed to be there. The public assembly will cover topics like home ownership, gentrification, and affordable housing opportunities in Raleigh. The event runs from 7 to 9 p.m. at Watts Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. And the World Health Organization recognizes today as World Mental Health Day. It is a day to raise awareness about mental health issues and support options. The organization also highlights some self-care tips to improve your mental health, including getting enough sleep, exercising, and limiting time on those electronic devices.
This morning, roughly 70,000 homes in western North Carolina are without power nearly 2 weeks after Helene. Businesses, churches, even museums are becoming blessings for people without power and running water. In Hendersonville, for example, a children's museum has become a one-stop shop for people in need. The gift shop shelves now filled with baby food. An administrative office, now a doctor's office. And the birthday party room is now serving as a counseling center.
We thought, well, we're going to supplement the help that's coming here. We realized that the work we're doing and many other great nonprofits in our region is the help. And if people were not donating, folks here would be suffering.
Another example, Biltmore Baptist Church in Buncombe County. That's where cars were lining up to pick up supplies. Inside, there's a working kitchen. The group Baptist on Mission operates. Hugh Jackman announced his 2025 residency, and more stars line up to help with Helene relief efforts. Ashley Dvorkin has all of that in the Hollywood Nation.
Guy's got good instincts.
Guy's got good everything.
Richson gets a renewal. Jackman returns to the stage, and country music stars unite for a good cause in the Hollywood Nation. The concert for Carolina expands its star-studded lineup. Keith Urban, Sheryl Crow, and Bailey Zimmerman will perform at the benefit, which will raise funds for victims of Hurricane Helene. They join headliners Luke Combs, Eric Church, Billy Strings, and James Taylor. It will take place at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, October 26th. All proceeds will be donated to organizations helping with relief efforts across the Carolinas and the Southeast. Hugh Jackman is heading to Radio City Music Hall. The stage and screen actor will deliver 12 concerts for his residency From New York with Love, featuring Jackman performing songs from his Broadway and film musicals. The show kicks off with a weekend in January, then returns for 1 weekend a month, April through August.
How are you?
Speaking of the stage, Jonathan Groff is returning to Broadway to play 1950s and 60s singer-songwriter Bobby Darin in the new biomusical Just in Time. The show will take place at the Circle in the Square Theater, which will be turned into an immersive nightclub with a live on-stage band. Previews begin March 28th, 2025, with an official opening set for April 23rd.
Who are you?
Someone who prefers not getting involved.
Alan Richson will continue solving crimes and delivering his own kind of street justice. Prime Video has renewed its hit series Reacher for a 4th season. The renewal comes months ahead of the show's season 3 premiere in 2025.
Why'd you gotta hit him so hard? I don't hit soft.
That was Ashley Dvorkin reporting. Attention fans of Outer Banks on Netflix. The first 5 episodes of season 4 dropped this morning. Part of it was shot here in North Carolina, but not on the Outer Banks. Production was in Wrightsville Beach. This season's last 5 episodes will drop November 7th. We'll be right back.